Hi guys, welcome to
Hello.
a Facehammer Age of Sigmar 3 reveal video, and we're going to deep dive into how do you build an army for the new version of Age of Sigmar.
Pretty fundamental, right? Let's jump in at the important bits. It's
Yeah.
all quite important though.
Yeah, so we did a live stream, so people who joined that, thank you very much. You can go check that out on watch it back if you want to see us kind of like revealing lots of different things. But in this video we're going to focus purely on sections like 25 to 27 in the core rules. So basically just to talk about the change points and for people who don't know how to build an army, so we will gloss over the words because there's a lot of words. It's fairly straightforward. So you have your pitch battle profiles, which are these tables where you basically have your war scroll name, your unit size, points, battlefield role, and some notes. So these are normally published in the back of your battle tomes. They published updates sometimes in FAQs, but generally in your general's handbook. Byron's going to demonstrate a pitch battle profile now. There you go. So those pitch battle profiles have a faction, which is this number one here, and your army is essentially a faction. So everything comes from that table, and you have different types and things like that. So basically, unit size is the size of the unit when you buy it, is how many models you get, and you can take under strength units, but it's a bit of a weird rule that when you get into matched play, it doesn't really apply. So if you don't have that many models, you can take less and be like, oh, they're under strength.
Yeah, it's fine too, but I mean, you should probably go to max, right?
Yeah, well, you're paying for them anyway, so you don't get a discount. So
I'm going to fill my Nurgle army with 7s of plague bearers for theme.
So this is a big change. Okay, so reinforced units. Okay, so a reinforced unit has twice as many models as the minimum size. And you can include reinforced units in your army. Now, in matched play, there is a cap, which we'll talk about when we get to the end of the battle. This video, I'm going to go to the match play section. But actually, one of the more important things is a unit that is reinforced twice has 3 times as many models and counts as 2 units towards your reinforced units you can include in your army. And that's also important because only battle line units can be double reinforced.
Which is huge.
Yeah. So if you've got 9 crypt flayers, no, unless they're battle line. So if you can make elite units battle line, that's going to be a lot more important. And if your elite units are battle line, then you're winning.
Yeah, so battle line if just became a very, very important 2 words to be reading at the back of your book.
Yeah. And you've got this points value. I won't go through all of this. You can read this, but basically, in terms of change points, really, there isn't much change in this area. So if you already play Age of Sigmar, you're aware of what the battlefield roles are and what those caps are and what unique and single means. So single means you can't reinforce it, and unique basically means that you can't have more than one.
One in, yeah.
So allies can be taken. They're normally at the bottom of the table. So yeah. Now this is probably the biggest change for army building in Age of Sigmar, and that is battalions. So battalions are now completely different. So obviously you've still got your war scroll battalions because these rules are aimed at like all versions of the game. We're going to talk more from a match play point of view. You can't include like war scroll battalions with rules like traditional war scroll battalions. You can only pick core battalions. So a lot of these rules are at the end of the book in another section, which I'll cover, but I'm talking from a match play point of view because there might be words here that contradict that, and then you go, why is it that? Because you apply the battle pack over the top of the core rules and it supersedes them. So I'm just going to sort of explain it as we're talking about it. So battalions, so you've got a war scroll battalion and a core battalion. So war scroll battalions are your traditional ones that you have like your rules, your special rules. It says like, I don't know, like Sacrosanct Chamber, you take this many units of blah, this many, and you get a special rule, like Mine's called completely blank of War Scroll battalions.
Twice-fold.
Yeah,
Twice-fold for Nurgle.
There you go. You've then got so basically those are not matched play legal anymore.
So everyone just needs to forget those if they're playing match play now, which is big readjustment, right?
Huge.
Yeah. I'm adjusting because I didn't quite get to that bit of the book.
This is a bit of a difference. Okay, so and basically it's we will go through all that. So you then have you saw this core battalion here, and they have battalion abilities, and they're like generic. So this is probably the most useful page, which is 26.3, which is your core battalions. Now, if you see here, you've got these kind of diagrams, and you've got like your warlord is a emboldened like guy on Dracoth, and that is a leader, and that can be any leader, can be a monstrous leader, anything, doesn't matter. Then you've got the little hero, looks like a Stormcast guy, as a sub commander, and it's a leader with a wounds characteristic of less than 10. So if you've got 10 wounds, you'll count as a big one. If you've got less than 10, you're the medium sort of hero leader. Doesn't matter if you're monstrous or not. So like Sunessa is 9 wounds, whereas Dexessa is 10 wounds. So she would be a little one, but Dexessa would be a big one. So it gives you an idea. Troops is just a unit that is not a leader, artillery, or behemoth. So that could be anything. Could be a corpse cart.
Scouts and
warriors. Doesn't have to be battle line or anything like that, but it could be. Artillery is got the artillery battlefield role. Monster has the behemoth, and it is not a leader. Okay.
Yeah.
Now the sort of the faded out ones are optional. The black are required. Okay. So. And then each one has got a set of icons which give you abilities. So, for example, the Warlord Battalion gives you strategist. So once per battle, when you receive a command point at the start of the hero phase, you can receive an extra command point. Now, in the new edition, command points don't persist across battle rounds. So you have to use that when you're going to need it, not just in the first battle round, because you might not need it in the first battle round. So it's quite important. It's a bit like the Ossiarch Bone Reaper's discipline points. They reset at the end of each battle round. So you go back to 0, spending or not. Okay. So then you've got Magnificent. So when you pick enhancements for your army, you could pick 1 extra enhancement. Now, I'll talk about those in a second.
A new word, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's basically like artifacts are enhancements, triumphs are enhancements, spells are enhancements. So you can double up more than just getting an artifact.
Okay.
You've then got the battle regiment has unified, and where you see this / here, that's either or, not both. That's a 1-drop deployment, and if we go back to the other page, it does explain that. So it says like it gives you the page reference there. So it's 26.2.1. So it's it says in here 1-drop. If a core battalion has a unified icon, then after you set up a unit for the battalion, you must set up all other units for the battalion one after the other. You are not allowed to set up units that are not part of the battalion until all the units in the battalion have been set up. In addition to the setup, instructions for battle say that players must alternate. Then after you set up a unit for this battalion, you must set up all the other units for the battalion. So basically, you put them all down.
No middle ground.
There's no stagger, then do the rest. You just put them all down.
Yeah.
So
as it probably should have been for a long time.
And it's not optional.
Yeah.
You must.
So
you can't go, how many drops are you? Oh, I'll do 3, and then I'll drop the, no, none of that. You've also got Expert, which is basically once per battle, 1 unit for the battalion can receive the all-out attack or all-out defense without a command point being issued, and without the command being issued and without a command point being spent. So you don't need, so these kind of abilities are like extra. Yeah. So you don't need, as long as they're in that battalion, you don't need to actually spend a command point. You don't need to issue it from a specific model. So if you don't have a champion, for example, you could do it on so obviously like if you've got a monster, for that example, it's not in range of a hero. It's not a hero itself because it can't be. And it's not a champion because it's a monster. It can do it because it doesn't. It's a special one, basically.
Yep. So quite a bit better than just having a CP.
Yeah.
Circumstance reliant.
You can't use it on anything other than those two abilities. And like Slayers is basically all out attack and unleash hell. Strategists, we said about the command point. Swift is the at the double or forward to victory. So they're basically, they force you to use it on a certain ability. But these battalions are open to everyone, and you can use as many as you want. So a unit can't belong to more than one. But if you have a warlord formation, you could also maybe have a grand battery and also a vanguard. So you could have 3 of them. So it's quite important to realize which unit belongs to which formation.
So marking them or making it clear on your list and to your opponent are both going to be useful then.
Yeah. And these are, this is kind of like a very big change. These don't cost any points. They're free. You don't have to pay for them. You just have them. And you don't have to use them. You can just not be in a formation.
Yeah, I'm still wrapping my head around it. I'm not crying, by the way. This is hay fever. I'm not lamenting the AOS that was. I'm
so
just sitting
sad.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting because basically, like, that is a huge change for match play. I mean, obviously, narrative and open play can still use your funky themed battalions, but you also got this in 27. It talks about allegiance abilities. So this is what we know. Armies get allegiance abilities, and they're split into 2 types: battle traits and enhancements. So this is where we start using this word enhancement, which is a new term. So basically, there's also universal enhancements, but could be used by any army. It basically says that if your army is made up of 2 or more factions, not including allies, you cannot use allegiance abilities otherwise unless noted. So that's sort of talking about those kind of like mixed armies, but that's more a narrative open play thing, because as we get to match play, you have to have a faction. So, and you can only have one, which basically forces you to be down one of those. So no more Byron order.
Very well.
Grand
People just have to learn how to spell my name. Never mind.
Yeah. If I was going to put it as Byron order on the overlay, but I thought it'd probably be a bit cheeky.
It's no more. It's no more.
If all so basically it's, you pick a faction and you're in there. Then there's a thing called sub factions. So these are like your Hammers of Sigmar for Stormcast. That kind of thing. So they've got to quantify
very logical
what they're
name.
Actually called now.
It's not a chamber or a religion or a Just okay.
Or a
I'm
nation,
down with that.
Or so
brilliant. I'm down. Okay, because every single battle tome review we did, we just ended up using the previous battle tomes, whatever it was. Yeah.
So the sub faction is basically just a way of saying that. So enhancements. So allegiance abilities include a set of enhancements. Enhancements are divided into command traits, artifacts, spell laws, prayer scriptures, mount traits, triumphs, and unique enhancements. Enhancements are picked after you've chosen battalions for your army. You can always take one enhancement of each type for your army, and the battalions or battle pack will allow you to take additional. So that essentially is the way of saying you can have one artifact, one command trait, you get to know spells from your lore, you get to know the prayers from your prayer lore, you get to have mount traits, as standard, like one of each.
So this is stuff that did exist before, but it now actually is put into rules in a generic
so
fashion.
Rather than in the army book saying, you can have this, know these spells and all this, it's if you're in that allegiance, you get access to those, and your army automatically gets one of each.
Okay.
So triumph is an interesting one, which we'll get onto, because basically you always get a triumph.
Nice.
But you can only use it if your army is less points than your opponent.
Cool. Okay.
But you have to write it on your army list.
But you get to pick it.
Yeah.
I'm down for that. That's the thing I enjoy.
So you've got enhancement restrictions. So enhancement cannot be given to unique units or allied units. In addition, artifact, unless noted. In addition, artifacts of power and command traits that affect attacks made by friendly models do not affect attacks made by their mounts. So these are sort of this common stuff we knew anyway. Each time you take a command trait enhancement, you can pick one trait, give to your general. You can never have more than one in your army, and a command trait can only be given to the general that is a hero. Because
so even if you're playing with 3 generals, or you've got some other exception, then only one person gets.
Yeah, and you can't buy more with your special icon Magnificent, where it says you can pick an extra enhancement, so you can pick a second trait.
Got you.
Obviously, pretend is a bit different, but there you go. So we pretend.
They like being different, though, don't they?
Yeah. So artifacts of power. You can pick one artifact power, give it to a hero in your army. A hero cannot have more than one, so that's basically the same. Each time you take a spell law enhancement, you can pick one spell for each wizard in your army from the spell laws available to that wizard. You can pick different spells from different spell laws for different wizards. Each wizard knows the spell that you picked for them in addition to other spells they know. So basically, if you take a spell law additional enhancement, you could know 2 spells from 2 different laws.
Okay,
so if you're playing like, Slanesh, and you've got a mortal wizard and you want you want them to know 2 spells, but every wizard in your army would know an extra spell, so you can, and there are generic spells, so it's every wizard. So for one enhancement, every single wizard gets an extra spell, so it could be quite good.
Yeah, it could. You just have a load of choice and a lot of one spell dudes in your army, and just have
you could have a lot of redundancy, because you could double up the key spells across multiple wizards and just be like, well, I know I can only cast it once, but maybe I want it more than once.
So now, if you've got 6 Lumineth core units, you could have 18 spells written on your...
If you really want to. I don't think you get it. Lumineth don't really struggle with getting the spells they need.
They're good. They got them, haven't they?
Then you've got the prayer scriptures. So each time you take a prayer scripture enhancement, you can pick one prayer for a priest in your army. For any other prayer scriptures available to that priest. So you can pick different prayers from different prayer scriptures for different priests. Each priest knows the prayer that you pick for them in addition to others they know. So again, it's the same, but it's prayers rather than spells. So, so triumph is interesting. So each time you take a triumph, you pick one triumph for your army. Each triumph you pick can be used once per battle and can only be used if the points total of your army is less than your opponent. So you could buy a second triumph. Can't have the same one again, but you might not get to use it if your army's they're more expensive than theirs. So it's like a bit of a gamble.
Got you.
So it does open some unique list building.
Banking on those 95 point armies, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. And unique, it says some armies will have unique ones, and it'll explain. So sub-faction allegiance abilities, I guess, is stuff like Lurid Haze and things like that. So if the allegiance abilities for a sub-faction include a command trait and the general of your army has the keyword for the sub-faction, then the command trait must be given to your general. So that's basically what the wording is normally anyway.
Yeah.
If the allegiance abilities for a sub-faction called an artifact, again, it's the same. So it's almost just putting those in the core rules rather than repeating them in every book.
Yep, nice.
Then we've got some universal enhancements. So we've got command traits. So you've got reroll run rolls and charge rolls for the general. Skilled leader. So if the general's on the battlefield, start your hero phase, roll a dice on a 5+ to get a command point.
Not bad.
High priest, who reroll chanting rolls. Heroic stature, get +1 wound. Master of Magic, once per hero phase, you can reroll 1 casting roll, dispelling roll, or abiding roll for this general. Then you've got universal artifacts. Amulet of Destiny, bearer has a ward of 5+. Now, a ward save is just an after save.
Yeah, I noticed that.
You can only get one. You can only have one ward. If you've got multiple, you just take the best one. You can't get a 6+, 6+, 5+, or anything like that. You just take the best. Then you've got the Vial of Magical Venom. Pick one of the bearer's melee weapons, add 1 to the wound rolls of that weapon. So it's okay. Arcane Tome, become a wizard. Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield. They can attempt to cast a spell in your hero phase and attempt to unbind one spell in the enemy hero phase. If the bearer is already a wizard, they can attempt to cast one additional spell instead. And then Seed of Rebirth, you can re-roll heroic recovery rolls. So that's your heroic action to recover, and you roll a leadership test. If you roll under your leadership, you get D3. If you roll equal to, you get 1. If you fail, you don't get anything. And leadership test is 2d6 under your bravery. Now, you've also got the universal spell law. So with the previous thing, it does say you can pick from multiple laws. So if you could take from this law instead of your battle tome law. So you've got flaming weapon on a 4. Pick a cast as many weapons. Add 1 to the damage of that weapon. So I could see Nagash wanting to use that, or someone else with a particularly beefy combat profile.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Then you've got Levitate is on an 8, range of 18. If successfully cast, pick one friendly unit that wholly within range. That unit can fly.
Good.
Then
like
Ghost
getting
Mist.
out from under your own feet.
Yeah, it's situational. Ghost Mist is a spell with a range, cast ability of 5, a range of 6. If successfully cast, pick one terrain feature within range, visible to the caster and to a next hero phase. Visibility between 2 models is blocked. If a straight line 1 millimeter wide drawn across the closest part of the 2 models passes across more than 3 of that terrain feature. This effect does not block visibility to or from models with the wounds characteristic of 10 or more. So it basically turns it into like a line of sight blocking terrain.
The small stuff.
Yeah. Which, I mean, not so sure that's very useful, but
not generically useful at least.
No, it's
I guess faction terrain.
Yeah, potentially. It's that more than 3 inches, so
yeah,
it doesn't really do a lot, I don't think.
No, I think your opponent's going to be able to dodge around that with like 2.5 or something. So,
and then we've also got universal prayers. So some of these are not the same as the ones that they've revealed. We saw on the community site of Bless and Smite. These are like extra. So you've got guidance on a 5. If you get it, you get a command point. So your priest can get command points. So that's pretty useful.
Yep.
Heal is on a 3. And a range of 12. Pick one friendly model within range of the chanter. Heal D3 wounds. So pretty good. Curse is an answer of 4. Range of 9. Pick one enemy unit within range to the next tier phase. If the modified hit roll target's unit is a 6, the unit takes 1 mortal wound in addition to any normal damage.
Okay.
I don't want a unit of witch elves hitting a cursed unit. It's going to be horrendous.
Yeah.
So like prayers, I mean, priests are going to be quite good in the new edition, I think.
Some priests make things battle line as well, maybe.
Maybe.
Can't remember. They just haven't seen much use in general. So that's a maybe because you just don't.
Not every army has them.
No. I think more have them than people realise because they just don't turn up that often.
Yeah, I was quite surprised when the War Shines actually got the priest keyword.
Oh, nice.
But it's not a hero.
Oh.
Yeah. So universal triumphs. You've got Bloodthirsty, which is after you make a charge roll, you can say it's Bloodthirsty, so you can re-roll the charge. So that was the so they're not quite the same. You've got Inspired. Once a battle, after you pick a friendly to shoot or fight, you can say it's Inspired. Add 1 to wound rolls. And Indomitable, once a battle, after you take a battle shot test for a friendly unit, you can say it's Indomitable. If you do, no models unit will flee. So that's pretty good because you can't use Inspiring Presence more than once because of the command ability restrictions. So if you're playing an army that cares about bravery, you might want to be able to do, all right, actually I'm going to just pass that test and then I'll use Inspiring over there.
Yeah, and it doesn't require someone in range to be able to do that, does it? It's just, you have it? Yeah.
But they're quite different because it used to be re-roll, hit rolls, wound rolls, and save rolls, right? Of 1,
hits, wounds, and saves.
Or is it just total?
No, it was total. Yeah, it's wounds and then saves in that order. So very different.
One of the big things in this edition is that you don't get rerolls, and your bonuses of pluses are capped at 1 and -1. So anything
that's like plus to hit, not plus attacks.
Not plus attacks, but plus to hit, plus to wound, and armor save, but not negatives on armor save. It's a bit. We'll probably cover it in another video, but essentially you add up the negatives and positives and get what the net result is, and then if it's more than 1, you round it down, or more than -1,
so you could have it up. Like 5 rend and 3 to or.
It's particularly important with saves, because if you stack +4 to your armor save and you've got a rend-free weapon, you're still going to be at +1.
Yeah.
So it's not that you go, well, you're +1, you're -1, and it's a normal straight save. It's you add it up, all the modifiers, and because rend is a save modifier. So
yeah,
cool. It's quite interesting. Cool. That's it for army building. In the
quite a lot of fundamental changes to the game. A lot of it is actually just things that already exist but put into writing. So that's kind of nice because it feels like a lot of information, but not too much of it is new. But there is still quite a lot of new stuff there.
Yeah. So just to cover off the match play element as well. So on 338 is the Conquest of Generals battle pack. So it essentially gives you your table. We'll look at 2000, 1 to 6 leaders, 3+ battle line, 0 to 4 behemoths, 0 to 4 artillery, 0 to 3 endless spells, invocations, 0 to 4 reinforced units, 0 to 1 of each for understrength units, allied units up to 400 points. Recommended table size 44 by 60. So obviously that's a different size. That's
yep.
We all know that. We've covered that in the lead up to the release. Recommended number of terrain 8 pieces on the table. So and it basically says that your all units in your army must be from a single faction. So that's the bit I was talking about that stops the Grand Alliance in match play. Your general must have the leader role. So obviously that's something we know about, that you could, because in normal Warhammer you can promote a normal guy as your general, like in like it was always been in there. Yeah. So for small point games, I guess. So here says only battle line units can be reinforced twice, so it's under the understrength and reinforced units area. And you can't include the same end of spell invocation more than once, which we know anyway. Then it says in here the maximum number of points you can spend on allies is shown in the conquest table. Allied units do not count towards the number of battle line units in your army. They do count to the maximum number of leader, behemoth, and artillery in your army. So I think the 25% thing is not there. It used to be like 1 in 4, didn't it? I don't think it's there anymore. Nice. I think it's just a points cap.
That always got complicated, especially in free cities when you were like, well, I've got this many Sylvaneth units, but also I'm allowed this many Stormcast, and therefore I can have this many Ideneth. So at least that's simpler than that.
And then you've got the faction terrain must be set up 3 inches from all other terrain and 3 inches from all objectives. These restrictions in addition to the setup rules in their battle tome.
Quite restrictive in some deployments,
especially with a smaller table. My Bone Tithe Nexus, it does not look like it's going to be used very often. You never know. There might be some changes to the rules on these faction terrains if there's particularly difficult to set up. I don't know.
Most of them with their brick.
Well, yeah, but who cares? They're jelly mold. So it says battalions. You can include core battalions, but you cannot include war scroll battalions. So that's the restriction there.
Yep.
So just for people that really, I'm just trying to work out where that was coming from when I was covering it. I just thought I'd go into it. So you've got special rules, stealing the initiative. So do not roll off to see who has priority in the first battle round. The player who finished deploying their army has priority in the first battle round. So that gives you the choice of who goes first.
Yeah, that is you go first. Yeah.
Now, grand strategies. This is something you have to put on your army list. And it says, after you've picked your army, you must pick 1 grand strategy from the list below and record it on your roster. So this is for every single game, you have the same one. in an
So
event.
you turn up to an event, it's on your list along with who your general is, basically.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's 3 here. It says at the end of the battle, if you complete your grand strategy, you score 3 additional victory points. So pretty important. But you get Sever the Head. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if there are no heroes from your opponent's starting army on the battlefield. These are quite hard, some of these. Vendetta. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if a model chosen to be your opponent's general has been slain and the model chosen to be your general has not been slain.
Ooh.
And Hold the Line. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if there are any battle line units from your starting army on the battlefield.
That one sounds like the easiest.
Yeah, that's generally where I go.
It's the most reliable.
Unless you're running
depend
3 units of minimum shitty battle line.
Yeah, or equally, if you've got like a load of long range, high quality shooting, or your army's particularly good at assassination. Yeah, first one's tricky.
Yeah, it's but you might get lucky and play someone who's got 1 hero, and you just kill him. You're like, yeah. So
yeah, so you get 3 VPs. It doesn't affect. So both of you can get it, as long as you don't have one that contradicts each other.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's interesting. So denying your opponent these has no benefit to your score,
other than they might pip you at the post.
Yeah. No, interesting. Okay, I like
that. Oh, should we go into? Should we talk about this while we're here? Talk about battle tactics, because there's and how you win the game. So, or should we do it on another video?
Let's do a separate one for that. So how you win the game's an important one, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's basically how you build your army. So, some key changes there. So, just to like give you a summary, if you're playing matched play, which is what we tend to focus on, War Scroll Battalion's gone. Core Battalions are new. Enhancements are new. They've changed how you pick your army, and you can have additional, like particularly around prayers and spells. That's quite interesting. And triumphs. You've got your generic ones which everyone can take from. Yeah, so it's and probably the biggest one for me is the reinforced units. So
outline is a big thing.
Yeah,
if you want big units.
Plus, you're going to get 4 in a 2,000 point army. So if you have 2 units of 30 witch elves, you've just used up all your reinforcement points. So none of your other units could be bigger than minimum size.
Wow.
So you won't get 90 witch elves on the table because you just can't.
Literally can't get.
In 3 units of 30, that is. You could have like 3 units of 10 and 2 30s, but you know. So there's an emphasis on like having more units. And what's quite interesting is that when you're playing the game and you're building your army, the 1 drop, although it seems quite good, if you only do 1 drop, there's a lot you don't get. And for me, it's like you get the choice of the first turn, but actually because the game kind of rewards you for being second as well.
From my initial very uninformed standpoint with those, it looks like your army has to be like I have 1 plan and it's aggro, or you know I'm gonna open up my box of tricks and do exactly this thing in 90% of my games, and that involves me having to go first, therefore it's worth it, and off we pop. But
the problem is it's fairly restrictive because you can't have more than 1 artillery or 1 monster. You've only got 1 big hero. It's optional 2 little heroes. So to do an army that fits in the battle regiment so you don't have any more deployments is actually quite hard. And so I find
like that battle line and have 3 drops or something, or
yeah, I mean, like, because you've got to have 3 battle lines. So that's 3 of the units taken up already. You've got 3 characters. Only one can have 10 or more wounds, and you can have a monster or a piece of artillery. So to fit your army into a battle regiment and be 1 drop,
I'll always struggle with that.
You're not even going to be that effective because you're not having the composition you want.
No,
it's still useful. I think you normally have a battle regiment to reduce your number of drops, but to be a 1 drop is going to be quite unlikely.
Also, not being able to turn your 1 drop into a 3 if that's better than your opponent's 4, completely changes how it is. In some, you'd like to see where your opponent puts that key piece so you can kill it or reach it or whatever, and it's not a thing now. You just do yours in a 1er, and then your opponent can do exactly the opposite of what you'd like them to do, potentially.
I really like the Warlord one, because for me, getting an extra command point in one of your turns and an extra enhancement, I think is really strong.
Yeah.
So I tend to build around Warlord when I've been building lists. And then you can tack on the other stuff as you needed. If you can do Command Entourage and Warlord with 6 heroes, although it's quite tricky, if you've got a very hero-heavy army, then you can obviously double up, because where it's got this / of strategist or magnificent, you could have 2 magnificent and a strategist, or 2 strategist and 1 magnificent. So you could have actually 2 extra enhancements on top of your base. You could have 3, but you can see quite quickly that it's a very significant difference in how you build your army list, because you're not going, what's the special rule I want for my battalion and how do I outdrop my opponent with my KO 1-drop army? Because actually a KO army, can you fit it into a battle regiment to be to lower drop to get the, and then if you so it really does open up a difficult choice, because you start to think, actually, if I take my KO list, does it fit into a battle regiment? And if it does, fine, but it's tricky. I think the boats
multiple monstrous heroes is tricky as well. Just looking at this at first sight,
so you're
pretty awkward.
You're going to end up in multiple formations or just out of a formation. So your drops is never going to be lower, really, than the number of units you take. And then obviously reinforcement stops you being able to take big units as often. So it's very interesting. So it completely changes the dynamic of how lists are built. It's why we sort of mark this as the #1 change for match play Age of Sigmar, because it has such a wide range of impact.
I'm going to change what you see on the table. I can't write a list. I need to learn this.
No, it's it takes a bit of time. That's why it's I'd say we say it's #2, because actually winning the game is the most important, and that's grand strategy, battle tactics, and objective capture. But it's close. It's up there. It's up there. It's important. So so that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. We'll be doing more every day, so just keep up to date with the channel. If you like it, hit the like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Any questions, pop them below, guys, and we'll help you out.
Cheers, guys.